You took your first breath on the banks of the Ganges River, right in the middle of that massive chaos created by 1.4 billion people. Your father worked in heavy labor, some days in construction, some days as a porter, or pulling a rickshaw. Your mother never sat idle either. She would go clean houses in wealthier neighborhoods or run a small street stall to earn money. You had 5 siblings. You were a typical Indian family. When you opened your eyes to the world, there were no luxurious hospital rooms around you. Instead, there was a heavy smell of spices in the air, endless honking, and an overwhelming crowd everywhere. So, my friend, I have some bad news for you. From the very first second, life started for you on impossible difficulty mode. Until the age of 2, your family somehow managed to take care of you. But after that, they couldn't really afford to give you much attention. You started growing up on the streets. And not metaphorically, but literally. You ate by the roadside. You bathed by the roadside. Even your basic needs were handled there. That was your life. Because hygiene wasn't exactly a priority. Especially in places like Mumbai, houses are so tightly packed and unplanned that installing proper sewage systems is nearly impossible. There isn't even 1 square meter of space inside many homes to build a toilet. And of course, you need water to flush. But clean water itself is a luxury in many parts of India. And then there's tradition. In older beliefs, having a toilet inside the house was considered unclean. Even today, in some rural areas, people still think it's better to relieve themselves far away from home, out in nature. Anyway, somehow, you survived this routine and made it to age 5. By now, you were basically an apprentice of the streets because you had to earn your own money. Your family brought you into this world, but they couldn't sustain you. In the deadly labyrinth of New Delhi's traffic, you ran after tourists. Your eyes worked like a radar. You could tell who had money, who might pity you, and who might kick you away, just by the way they walked. You had no choice, because economically your country is complicated. Technically, India is not poor. In fact, according to GDP, it's the 4th largest economy in the world. It has even surpassed countries like Japan in certain rankings. So why are the people poor? Because the population is enormous, the pie is huge, but the number of people who need a slice is even bigger. A large portion of the country's wealth is controlled by corporations, billionaires, and a tiny elite, basically the top 1%. Anyway, when you turned 7, the system pushed you into a rundown public school. There were about 80 students in your classroom. Yes, education wasn't exactly a priority. The system wasn't designed to unlock your potential. Its main goal was to give you basic literacy and prevent you from becoming a burden on the state. If you wanted a truly good education, you had to work like a machine, day and night, to escape the system. But your family couldn't afford that. On paper, literacy in India is high, around 82% as of recent data. But the country is so vast and unequal that in some developed southern states, literacy exceeds 96%, while in poorer crowded regions, it drops below 70%. And there's another issue: quality. In India, to be considered literate, it's enough to write your own name and read a simple sentence. So after just 1 year of schooling, you return to the streets. At age 8, a new baby sister was born. That meant more burden on your shoulders, because in many families, girls are seen as an economic liability, mainly due to the dowry system. When a girl gets married, her family is expected to give money, gold, even cars to the groom's family. So instead of celebration, her birth brings anxiety. How will we ever afford this? Girls are often not educated. They do housework, take care of siblings, cook, and unfortunately are often married off at 14 or 15, sometimes even earlier. And you don't get to say, if you can't take care of them, don't have children. For a poor family, a child is not just another mouth to feed. It's another pair of hands to earn money. More children mean more income. Also, since there's no reliable social security system, children are seen as a kind of retirement plan. So you had to accept your responsibilities. Yes, you were only 8, but in India you don't need to grow up to start working. Officially, there are about 10 to 12 million child laborers. But NGOs and field research estimate the real number to be between 40 and 50 million. That's like the population of an entire country. And you were one of them. At 8, you worked in brick kilns under scorching heat. At 9, your small fingers made you suitable for carpet weaving. At 10, you moved into workshops, repairing and painting cars. You were just a child, but you had no choice. Because you are not irreplaceable. There were thousands just like you, equally skilled, equally desperate. By the time you reached 15, you'd learned a trade. But in your country, having a skill didn't mean much. If you quit your job today, your employer wouldn't even wait until tomorrow to replace you. There were dozens waiting at the door. You dreamed of opening your own shop. You searched for cheap places across different regions. But even that came with challenges. India officially recognizes 22 languages. But in reality, there are around 19,500 languages and dialects spoken. Move just 2 states away, and it feels like a different country. At 18, after struggling relentlessly, you finally managed to rent a tiny shop. You gathered the basic tools you needed. It wasn't much, but it was yours. Maybe your shop didn't have the best equipment in the world, but it gave people hope. In India, purchasing power is very low. Luxury cars, expensive phones, high-end gaming computers. These are just dreams for someone born at the bottom. But the things others throw away or repair cheaply, those same things can change someone else's life. At 18, you could also vote. You were lucky. The election cycle aligned perfectly with your age. In India, there's an unusual rule. No voter should have to travel more than 2 kilometers to vote. Even if there's just one voter in a remote mountain area, officials must carry the ballot box there. But who would you vote for? There are over 2,500 registered political parties, but only a handful actually hold power. In elections, thousands of candidates compete. In some regions, ballots have 30 to 40 names, and you have to choose between them. But here's the problem. None of them are truly different. While most people survive on $2 to $3 a day, the politicians representing them are incredibly wealthy. And then there's corruption. Corporations fund political campaigns. In return, politicians grant them contracts, tax breaks, and favors. This cycle keeps wealth concentrated in the hands of a few. So no matter who you vote for, nothing really changes. You worked, survived, struggled, and somehow made it 21. And honestly, just making it that far without a workplace accident was an achievement. Healthcare in your country is far from ideal. For the poor, public hospitals are the only option. But getting treated there is like a test of endurance. You might wait days just for an appointment. People sleep on hospital grounds waiting for their turn. There aren't enough doctors, and the number of beds is laughably low. If you damaged your eye while welding, for example, you might not even get an appointment for weeks. At 21, you were also legally old enough to marry. In India, about 90% of marriages are still arranged. You don't find love, you accept who your family chooses. Newspapers are filled with marriage ads. Caste, salary, skin tone, religion, all listed like job requirements. The caste system never leaves you. It's so extreme that in Mumbai, there's a 27-story mansion worth over $2 billion, complete with helipads and hundreds of staff. And right next to it, people struggle to survive on $1 to $2 a day. Eventually, your family began searching for a bride for you. First requirement, caste. People from different castes cannot marry. Second, religion. If you're Hindu, marrying someone from another religion is seen as dishonor. Even if those match, dowry expectations can still block the marriage. And weddings? A traditional Hindu wedding lasts 3 to 7 days. For the rich, it's a show of power. For the poor, it's a debt trap. Families take loans just to host weddings and spend decades paying them off. But somehow you got married. Congratulations. So what changed? Not much. Your biggest activity as a married couple was gathering family on weekends and visiting parks or temples. Sometimes you went to fairs where children rode carousels and you ate street food from India's incredible cuisine. Occasionally you traveled by train. But those trains, every day, 23 to 25 million people use them. That's like transporting the entire population of Australia daily. They're overcrowded beyond imagination, but for you, it was normal. Time passed. You reached 25. Your wife was pregnant. One cool February evening, as you lay down to sleep, your thoughts wandered. Will I be able to pay the shop rent this month? Will the gas cylinder last a few more days? Can I fix the hole in my shoe? And you fell asleep. Good night. That's it, friends. If you made it this far, don't forget to like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next live. Now, roll the music.